This lecture focuses on the threat that the firm faces from substitute products. What we're going to focus on, at least initially, is the concept of buyer sensitivity to changes in the firm's price. So if the firm were to raise its price, how many customers might, say, switch to some substitute product? Or perhaps they might simply buy less or do without. That's also a kind of substitution. This threat of substitute products and services is one of Michael Porter's 5 competitive forces, as we've seen earlier in this standard diagram. It's worth pointing out that Porter defines substitutes in his model as products that are produced by some different industry. That is, an industry that's different from the one that the firm is operating in. So, for example, if our firm is roasting and selling coffee, tea would be a substitute for coffee, and that would be produced by another industry. But in economics, we think of substitutes a little bit more broadly than that, because after all, if our firm is roasting and selling coffee, it has to worry about other coffee brands. Those are substitutes for its product as well. So if the firm were to raise its price, people might switch to other coffee brands, and perhaps they would also switch to tea. But both of those are going to affect the firm's sales and therefore its revenues. So our analysis of the threat of substitutes is going to be a little bit different from Porter's, so we'll have to make sure that we don't kind of mix up those two concepts. Well, one of the central ideas that we're going to look at is really quite simple. It's the claim that if fewer substitutes are available for the firm's product, that's going to give the firm what we will call greater market power. In other words, it will have the ability to raise prices without losing as much sales, without losing as many customers. I might just add that the term market power in economics refers to the ability that the firm has, the power it has to set prices. So the greater the firm's market power, the higher the prices it can set above production costs. For example, if a firm had no market power at all, then it would have no power to set the price. In other words, there would be some market price out there that the firm had no control over. So if it wanted to sell its product, it would have to set a price that was equal to the market price. Well, that's not really a very interesting or realistic situation, I don't think. I think virtually any business that you can think of has some power to set its own prices. So that's what we're going to focus on in this course. Well, if a firm has fewer substitutes threatening it, then its demand is going to be less price sensitive. And what we can show is that that's going to be good for profits, at least as long as that situation of low price sensitivity on the part of buyers persists. But, as we'll see as well, that situation may not last very long if the firm's competitors are out there trying to actively create substitutes for the firm's product to compete for the firm's customers. I just want to stress as well that the analysis that we're going to go through is going to assume that other factors that affect profitability are unchanged. So we're just going to be examining one thing at a time. And in this particular case, we're going to be thinking about what happens when the firm changes its price and how its customers are going to react. Well, what we're going to focus on is this concept of price sensitivity, and in particular its effect on the firm's sales revenues. Now, we're just considering a simple situation in which the firm just charges a single price for all customers. So it doesn't set different prices for different people. That's something we're going to look at later on in the course. Well, in this particular case, if there's just a single price, then just that price times the quantity that the firm sells in some particular period of time is going to tell us the firm's sales revenues. Well, given that we're considering the effect of price changes, a natural question to ask is, if the firm raises its price, will its sales revenues go up or will they go down? You can just think about that for a minute. And of course, in any of these videos, you can always pause if you want to think about the answer to a question. Well, if the firm raises its price, the answer is, who knows? Maybe its sales revenues could go up or they could go down. It just depends on how its buyers, how its customers react to that price change. Let's just consider a couple of simple examples. Let's suppose that the firm raises its price by 10%, but the quantity sold falls by only 2%. Well, in that case, you can easily see that its total sales revenues are going to go up. And in fact, they'll go up by about 8%, just the difference between the amount that prices went up and the amount that sales went down in percentage terms. Well, a situation like this is one in which we could say that demand is not very sensitive to price changes. But we could easily imagine a different situation in which, if the firm raises its price by 10%, let's say the quantity sold goes down by 20%. So a greater percentage change than the change in price. Well, in that case, total sales revenues are going to fall, and again, they'll fall by about the percentage difference between the change in price and the change in quantity, in this case about 10%. Well, it would be nice to be able to actually come up with some measure of the price sensitivity of demand. Let's turn to that in the next section.